We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for. I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work, or not. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating insider, if you will. On each episode, you'll hear commentary from my producer, Julie Krafchick, and other surprise co-hosts. This episode of Dateable is brought to you by 500 Brunches. 500 Brunches connects like-minded people with similar interests to meet in real life over brunch. You answer a quick questionnaire about your interests and how you spend your time, and then they'll match you in small groups of 6 to 8 at a brunch spot in San Francisco. Get a free entry into a brunch now by signing up at 500brunches.com and using the code DATEABLE. The following content contains explicit sexual content and noises, so be aware before blasting this at work, in your car, or in front of minors. We have partnered with Organ House, a Bay Area community devoted to normalizing non-monogamy and sexual exploration. They pride themselves in a strong culture of consent and safety, and we want to make sure that message is heard throughout this piece, whether you end up at a play party or through your own dating life. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. We just came back from a play party. And what's a play party? It's where people go fuck. It was a sex party. We've been waiting for this to happen for months and months and months. So it's, Julie and I had like sex party on our calendar for a very long time. A good thing we didn't share that calendar with any of our relatives. But we just came back from one and it was a success. We also brought someone with us. Her name is Natalie. First-time sex party goer. She's 32 years old, grew up in the South, and she's been living in the Bay Area for the past 10 years, single and ready to mingle. Hi, Natalie.
Good morning.
Hello, sunshine. Let's take everyone through the steps of what happens pre, during, and post a play party. Before the party began, we found Natalie, and we were like at brunch, I think, and we met Natalie, and we were like, we might be going to this sex party sometime this month. And she was pretty curious. Do you remember that conversation?
I do. I have heard about sex parties for a while now, and so it totally piqued my interest when you guys brought it up.
And then let's talk through what you thought about when we brought up this idea of going to the sex party and recording maybe your experience there.
It's been kind of a roller coaster of feelings. Like, should I really do this? Do I know what I'm getting myself into? Is this going to be something that I can never unsee? So leading up to it, there were a lot of questions and some apprehension of like, is this going to be my scene?
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's probably the normal set of questions that everyone goes through. And just to give you guys some background, a few seasons ago, we had Ben and Kate on one of our episodes talking about polyamory and non-traditional relationships. And they're a married couple. They are poly, and they throw these ginormous sex parties. And they used to do this at their house. And at like capacity of like 80 people, but now it's gone beyond like 200 people.
Yeah, with their group organ house.
So they expanded into this much bigger space, and that's where we were at last night. So before you went to the party, you had a conversation with Kate on the phone. Here's a clip of that.
Hi, my name is Kate Horowitz, and I'm one of 6 hosts of the Organ House events. First, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. We have this conversation with every single member who attends our private events. The goal of this call is to go over our party's consent culture, your responsibilities as a guest, and also to make sure to answer any questions that you have. So let me first start this by letting you know a little bit more about Organ House and what it is that we do. Organ House is an organization that throws monthly public and private events for the non-monogamous community and anybody curious about non-monogamy. You're on this call because you've been invited to one of our private events. And our private events are play parties, which basically means that this is a sex party. You can do almost anything you want here, as long as you're doing it in a mutually consensual way that is respectful of the venue and the space and boundaries of the people around you. Organ House is not just a sex party, though. This is a community of really wonderful people. This is not a club where you're going to come and meet a lot of anonymous people that you're never going to see again. So it's a little different from other sex parties that you might have gone to or heard of before. We welcome people of all gender, relationship, and kink orientations. And that means people might have radically different ideas about what gender means to them than what it means to you or I. Our members have pretty diverse preferences. Some people identify as polyamorous. Some people identify as swingers. Some folks are monogamous, and they're just here for the party because it's really good, if I do say so myself. You do not have to participate at all. You are more than welcome to just come, keep all your clothes on, and check it out. Meet people, make friends, and see if this is something that you'd like to try in the future. We like to describe this as a zero expectation, high possibility environment. Nobody is guaranteed anything by attending, but anything can happen. So my goal is just to throw a great house party with good music and good people, and everything else is a bonus.
They kind of give you the ground rules for participating in these parties, and the most important aspect is this aspect of affirmative consent, that you should only move forward with someone if you're totally comfortable, they're totally comfortable, and you've verbalized that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really cool principle beyond just a sex party.
Yeah.
And it's something that our society doesn't actively teach people. So that was one element of the community that I thought was really important and a good thing.
Yeah. So you had a few months to prepare because we thought we were going to that sex party right away, but it took us a while. How did you prepare for the night that finally happened?
Well, when we first started talking about this, they added me to the Facebook group. So I just was reading the posts that they were putting up and kind of getting a sense of what the people in the community were interested in and talking about. And it was definitely a kinkier world than I have been part of in the past. And, just being open and reading stuff about that they posted or, that other websites and stuff on the internet about non-traditional relationships. and just kind of getting an idea of what philosophy is behind that. And it's really interesting stuff.
But most importantly, what were you going to wear?
I think that was definitely all question. Or
I
like,
mean,
what do you
Natalie,
wear to this thing?
it's great. We're talking about this like philosophical, like conversation behind sex parties. But honestly, you were like, what am I going to wear? So what were some outfit choices, and what did you end up going with?
Well, at one point I went to like a lingerie store and was thinking about buying this sort of see-through top with a bra underneath and a high-waisted skirt. I thought that was sexy, but you have to go to a pre-party before you go to the actual party, or you don't have to. And I thought that, so I need to dress in a way that I could go to the first party. So I went with a short, classic black dress, and I had on, like cute panties and cute bra underneath, but it wasn't like the focus wasn't lingerie.
Right. And this one was a James Bond theme as well. So they're themed usually, which kind of does help out a little in terms of costume ideas.
Yes.
Like I know they've done like Roaring Twenties or something like that too.
Right.
About an hour before the party began, I came and found you as you were getting ready.
Yes.
And here's a little clip from that. Interviewing Natalie right before the sex party. She's already on a bed, so you're already prepared. How are you feeling?
I guess I'm a little apprehensive because I have no idea what to expect, but I can't believe it's finally here. I feel like we've been waiting to do this for a while.
So we're about an hour before the party starts. There's a pre-party. What are some things that you're worried about right now?
I really don't want to see a lot of balls slapping.
Balls slappage. That's your number one worry.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there anything you did to prepare for tonight?
Showered. And did all the normal things you do when you shower, including shaving.
Landing strip?
There's a little more than that.
Well, I think I'm about to find out.
We'll see. I actually was thinking you're really the only person I don't want to see me having sex.
If I do catch you having sex, I just won't tell you I saw you. How's that?
Until tomorrow morning.
Surprise! Girl, I didn't know you like it like that.
As long as there's no eye contact during, we'll be good.
Okay, so then it's time for the pre-party. So it's me, Natalie, and Julie in an Uber going to Oakland for a sex party pre-party.
I think the Uber driver was just like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
And in the beginning, the three of us were so good about keeping it vague. We're like, oh, do you think it's going to happen? Who do you think is going to be there? And then it was like, are you gonna fuck?
This Uber driver just had his headphones in. He's like,
I don't know what's happening. I don't know
and
what's
then we showed up
on.
at like the diviest bar also. We're like, is this where we're supposed to get off?
And I actually think that was part of like the most memorable experience of the night too, because the dive bar, you walk in, I just expected everyone was there for the sex party. But the front room definitely did not fit.
I think there was
the
like a
type.
Baseball game going on.
Yeah.
I realized it was like very like
it was like all these lumberjacks in the front room.
It was very
and like flannel
bar
shirts.
guys,
Bar guys.
and like girls too. Like, but we're like, is this the people for this play party? But then we went to the back room, and then it became a lot more clear because people were dressed in things that looked James Bond-ish.
Yes, at least they
flannel
were
shirts.
in beyond flannel shirts. And what happened there? There was like a lot of things that happened. First of all, we scoped out the room.
Right.
Like, okay, this could happen. That
It was
could happen.
good to ease in that way.
It
I
was
think.
definitely
I
good
don't
to
know what
ease
you
in
think.
that way. What we noticed was a lot of people were showing up as a couple.
Yep.
Right? And they were like flirting and talking, socializing as a couple. And one woman came up to us. She's married, but her husband was talking to someone else. And she came over and kind of told us like everyone is here as a lot of them are here as couples, but they do independent activities at a sex party. But at the pre-party, it's like the foreplay to the sex party. Anything else happen there?
The closest I got to probably to hooking up with anyone was at the pre-party. And a lumberjack-like man came up to me and just kind of stared me down in the eyes and kind of grabbed me by the jacket and shook me around.
But we all thought he was going to the party.
We did. We did.
That like really awkward interaction. Like, are you here for the party? What party?
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm here for the. No, we're not on the same page at all.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not here for the party. But he saw Natalie across the room and just had to come and talk to her. So, Julie and I were thinking, oh my gosh, what if she found the one at a sex party pre-party dive bar? But then we kind of pushed the envelope a little bit, and it was like, okay.
I was totally impressed with Yue's ability to get the information out of him, which was that he had a girlfriend. And
yes, he
men
kept lingering
Yeah,
and
But we
flirting.
made a comment. I think this is interesting. We made a comment. If we had run into him at the play party, where he was there with his girlfriend, it would have been totally
It would have been fine. Yeah.
But here, like in this context, it was like awkward.
It was wrong. And
Yeah.
he was like, he kept saying, I have a girlfriend and we are in a committed relationship. To me, that meant monogamous relationship, right? But at a play party, nobody would ever say that.
Right.
Nope.
It was such an interesting
It'd be
context
like,
to be in.
honey, go do your thing.
Yeah. So around 9:30 rolls around.
Yep.
We're ready to go to the party that's right around the corner.
I feel good. I feel a little bit apprehensive still, right? That's the word I used earlier. We'll see.
And we walk in. Let's describe what we're seeing, Natalie.
Okay, so you walk in and the first open space is the one public space in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's people kind of hanging around, but then you kind of meander down this hallway and into the sex cavern. And there's beds and sheets and chairs and sex contraptions.
Yes.
Was it the dungeon
Throughout.
room that was new that they mentioned?
So there was a main room, and then you go through like a miniature hallway, and it opens up into this like dungeon room. And they kept saying like, this is the new area. This has never been built before. And the dungeon room just had all these contraptions I had never seen before, and I was super curious what people were going to do.
It looked
with
like
them.
an electric chair in there, like
It did.
where you tie hold someone down.
Yeah,
It's like one of those like medical seats too.
Yeah,
That
the
you,
OBGYN seats. Oh yeah, getting a pap smear.
Yeah,
And a
different experience. But I think what was interesting, at least for me, when I heard like this like community space, like I kind of felt like, oh, this feels a little unsexy.
Yeah.
But like what was interesting, they Ben, one of the hosts, told us that basically this space has been bought by people in this community, and that's what it's primarily for at this point. And they really have like done like an amazing job with the space.
They really did. It was such like, it felt like a, I don't know, it felt like a house party in a way.
Yeah.
Because it was very intimate, but then it was like an elaborate house party with like
Right.
decorations and
And
sex
the music
contraptions.
was like pretty like, there was like EDM, but it was like pretty chill. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like rager, but it was, yeah.
Some of you are going to wonder about the logistics and also like the cleanliness and the safe sex
Oh, yeah.
aspect of the sex party. So these are things we noticed. There were condoms everywhere. I don't think I found a corner without condoms.
Nope.
Lube and condoms everywhere. Cleaning products everywhere. Those like disinfectant wipes were everywhere. Also, there was a woman who was in charge of making sure everything was clean all the time. So she like went around and cleaned the apparatuses, and she like changed the sheets. So I would say they were as clean as they could get.
Well, someone mentioned like people that are so sexually active tend to be very like clean and like
Yeah.
concerned with cleanliness because it's so like top of mind and so concerned with STDs, which the questions and topics people ask here are actually things that people don't really ask like just out and about or on a Tinder date.
Yeah. One of the things when you're talking about consent, what I noticed was when we're in the dungeon room, a girl came up to another girl and said, "Can I touch your butt?"
Yeah.
Did you hear that? And the girl was like, "Oh yeah, sure." It was like so much consent,
Yep.
even between same sex.
But
you know?
even when we met one girl, we saw another girl down there that we had met at the pre-party, and she even asked, because she at this point was like in her lingerie more, and she asked, like, can I hug you guys?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just, like, and we had just, like, hugged and, like, met her, like, 10 minutes earlier at this, like, bar in a very different context.
I'm just so not used to have that sort of behavior, to ask for permission for everything. But that's how it is at a play party.
But I think what Kate was saying, when you don't have when people don't have clothes on or less clothes, even like a small touch can feel very elevated.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why like the hugging even needed consent.
I actually realized when I was walking through the big crowd, before anybody was really naked, that I had placed my hand on someone's back and kind of scooted by them. And I thought to myself immediately after I did that, like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh. Because they don't know who I am, and it was from behind, and so
that's true.
You just have to be more conscious than you would normally.
As with any house party, in the beginning, not that many people are there. So we're seeing like very diverse people coming in, trickling in. Some are in costumes, some are in lingerie, and some people are just naked already.
And some people are in like more standard clothes, like we were, like dresses and pants.
Yes.
Can we talk about what men were wearing a little more? Because I know that people have had that question when I've told people, is like, okay, I get what women can wear with lingerie, but what about the guys? What do they wear to this type of thing?
I felt like most of the men, most of them wore just like normal clothes or like tuxes or something like that with like bow ties and ties. Yep. But then a lot of them put a lot of thought into their underwear.
Yeah.
I've never seen so much unique men's underwear.
Well, actually the most striking guy was the guy in just a normal pair of boxers walking around, and they were kind of oversized and puffy, and looked like he was walking to his door to get the newspaper.
There were like some guys like that had like the blazer, and then like more of like there was some like combo briefs, boxers, like all sorts of things. And then some people that just weren't wearing anything
at all. It was like straight out of Magic Mike. Everyone looked like they belonged in Magic Mike.
Yeah, but I mean, also some of it was the theme too, right?
That's true, yeah.
The interesting thing was it was one of the hallways before you really get into the party. It has a bunch of cubicles. And so like anywhere, if you go to a yoga class, you put your shoes in the cubicle. By an hour into that party, the cubicle was
so full.
Packed with clothes.
Because everyone just like drops their stuff.
Yeah.
So they can just, like,
people just disrobe right there.
Yeah. Layers and layers of clothes. There were some women in straight up gowns. Like ball gowns.
Well, they were definitely taking the James Bond theme literally.
Very literally.
So yeah, you're right. I forgot about that also.
I also saw a lot of women who did some like wardrobe changes throughout the night. Some came in like a dress, and then midway through they were in lingerie, and then they were like in a lacy dress, and then they were like in a post-party dress. I don't know. It was just like a lot of wardrobe changes. You have to bring a lot of shit to a sex party. I didn't realize. But the great thing about this party was everybody pretty much showed up by 9 o'clock, right? Like,
someone made a comment like, this is the only party that people actually get here on time.
Yeah, because you have to get there for the consent speech, which was given by co-host Ellis. So here's a clip of that consent speech.
I have a very important speech that I would like to give before this party happens. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for being here. There's a shitload of you here right now, and it is awesome. So to begin with, I'd like to go over some ground rules before we get started. You can do almost anything you want here, so long as you do it in a mutually consensual way that's respectful of the space around you and the people around you. Yeah. You also don't have to play to be here. You can just be here, keep your clothes on, and have a good time. Now please only act on enthusiastic consent. Fuck yeah! That's what that sounds like. And please don't be afraid to say no if somebody asks you to do something. Please be polite in saying no, and please be polite in hearing no. Please don't ask somebody for an explanation or keep asking over and over again. You can revoke your consent at any time. We purposefully cultivate an environment where you can test your boundaries, and sometimes you find them. Make sure that you've prepared ahead of time to be able to say no, I want to stop now, when you're 3 lashes in and strapped up on the cross for what sounded like was going to be an awesome time and then actually turned out not to be. And consent is always conditional on the participant's ability to revoke their consent. I'd also really like to say I see a lot of new faces here, and I love that. We're a community, and we're an awesome group of people. And more than this being a sex party, it's a bunch of people that want to come together and be there for each other. So reach out to each other, say hi to each other, get to know somebody new tonight. And beyond that, get naked and have a great time.
So then we were introduced to Peaches, our sex party Sherpa. She was amazing. She gave us a rundown of pretty much exactly by the minute what happens. Here's a clip of that.
I'm Peaches. Sex Sherpa, Sexy Dun Mother also is a name that I go by. The role that I was born to play.
What's some advice you give to someone who's never been to a sex party before? This is their first time.
So they host their own orientations, and then whenever I bring people, I make them attend my orientation. And I tell them, if it's your first sex party, come with the expectation that you're not going to play. Just come with the expectation that and you might not even stay the whole time. You're going to observe, you're going to make new friends, you're going to treat it a lot like any other party where some people happen to be naked and fucking. And then if you really feel comfortable with it and you feel called to interact with people and play, maybe with your partner or maybe with a couple new people, then do it. But if you come in with the expectation like, okay, I'm at a sex party, I have to have sex, I've got to find people to have sex with, who wants to have sex with me, you're going to have a really bad time. So just like, there's no such thing as taking it too slow, there is such thing as taking it too fast, and these happen every month. So there's no need to rush.
Give us that breakdown, the timeline breakdown of what happens every time.
Okay.
Love that.
All right, so this is one of the only parties where it's called for 9 and everyone shows up at 9. Did you guys notice that? Yeah. Everyone gets here at 9 because you don't want to miss the consent speech. So 9 o'clock, everybody gets there. People are in their clothes and it looks a lot like any other party except that there is one naked guy when you get here. Ellis is naked immediately every single time, which is just wonderful. He's a wonderful naked man. And sometimes one other naked guy. But other than that, it looks like a normal party, and people are kind of mingling and a little bit awkward, sticking with their friends, starting to kind of look around who's here. The consent speech usually happens by 9:30, and then it's like, that's like kind of the bell of like, all right, like the gong, party's happening. But still, people are getting warmed up. So 9:30 to 10:30, people are starting to take off their costumes, and they're in their sexy lingerie, whatever that means to them. And you'll start to see some people playing in the corners, some couples will start playing, and then around 10, 10:30, 11, you'll start to see couples fucking, and maybe they're involving groups of 3s, maybe groups of 4, and then between like 11 to midnight, things start to really pick up steam. A lot of the horizontal space gets covered. Between midnight and 2 a.m., it's like fuck fest. Like a lot of naked people. The lingerie's been thrown in a corner. Groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe will be playing with each other. You'll hear a lot more noises. You'll hear moaning and slapping sounds and people getting spanked, and the smells will shift. And it's really hard to find horizontal space at that point. It's there will always be people at the bar getting snacks, carb loading in between sessions, getting some drinks, rehydrating, and then from 2 a.m. to whenever it kind of starts to die down, and then it's like the people who are going to be up all night, and it gets a little bit quieter, but then there's still some really interesting stuff going on, and that's how it goes every single time. It's exactly the same.
So as the party's getting started, I was hungry. I need to get in on that cheese platter. We talk to people who've been to sex parties and they're like, sometimes the food is really good. So get in on that food. We were by the cheese platter listening to people talking. It was just great people watching. And we kind of let Natalie roam off on her own. And Julie and I went to a different room and started talking to the various party goers that came. And there were a lot of couples that were willing to talk to us. Here's some clips of the couples we met.
So we are a couple who live together, and we are non-hierarchical polyamorous.
Non-hierarchical polyamorous. What does that mean?
Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, let's go with that. Well, it means that like we're basically free to negotiate commitments with anyone in our life in a way that is respectful for everyone, but is not like, I think the thing we're trying to avoid is, you're my girlfriend, and therefore there are rules about exactly who we're allowed to meet and at what times.
Yeah, we don't let anything in our relationship dictate ahead of time the scope of any future relationship.
That being said, that all sounds pretty out there. Most of the time, we're just a regular couple. Like, I don't know, we like cook shit in the Instant Pot and like, I don't know, talk about our jobs and stuff. It's pretty normal.
And what are your expectations when you come to a sex party together?
I'm just happy if I can stay out past midnight. I'm like kind of a morning person. So we just like to meet people, have fun. It's a great way to find attractive people in the dating world.
And how many sex parties have you guys been to?
Like low double digits. Like, not exactly sure the number, but around there, right?
Yeah, and mostly Organ House.
Sometimes we meet really cool people. Both of us have like dated people for more prolonged periods who we met at play parties. But also, sometimes we just talk to some friends for a bit, maybe have sex with each other, and then go home. Like, it can really vary.
Give us your background. What's your relationship?
So we've been together a little over 9 years. We met back in college. And we were monogamous for, I think, the first four years. And then we started to open up. And so we've had an open relationship since then.
How does sex parties, how does that play into your relationship?
Honestly, we're still kind of easing into this scene. So we've been to 3 of these parties so far, and we so far have only had sex with each other. It's nice to just kind of be in a room with a lot of people who are non-monogamous, because I'm like, this isn't a thing I can really talk about at work, you know?
What? You don't talk about non-monogamy at work?
I don't know, it's like this important thing in my life that I'm spending a lot of mental and emotional energy trying to figure out, but I can't really talk about it with a lot of people who are in my life. So it's really nice to have found this community where everybody is so open and friendly about it, and you can just kind of talk to people openly about, yeah, like, here are the challenges in our open relationship. Like, how do you guys deal with that?
And your third time here, the last 2 times you only had sex with each other, did you guys talk about expectations for today, for tonight?
On the way here, the thing that we discussed was, okay, our goal is to talk to 3 new people, and like maybe something will happen, but like basically the goal is to try to expand our social net and get more comfortable like talking to people who we think are hot, not necessarily like a sexual goal.
What would you say to a couple who's here at a sex party for the first time?
I would say don't assume anything about your partner or anyone else you're going to be interacting with, and be solicitous of how they're feeling. Like, ask questions.
Yeah, definitely ask for and pursue what you want, but don't make assumptions that you're going to get it.
And then there were some single people who came with friends.
And what happens for you typically at a sex party?
I find my most enjoyment by making new connections with people, and that doesn't necessarily involve sex. Maybe we don't even like take our clothes off at all, to maybe we play and touch a little bit. All of my deepest emotional connections some of them have truly like been evolved from like sex parties, and we do other things other than just go to sex parties. Like, yeah,
like go out to lunch,
like get brunch. Like, go to
normal shit. So what do you think about tonight? Do you think you're gonna have sex with someone tonight?
I go into these, honestly, even when I have a partner, I go into these on like when the headspace, like I don't expect, like no expectations, high probability. That's always been my way of thinking, and like honestly, if I'm expecting sex, I end up having the least fun because I'm expecting it too much, or I'm putting too much pressure on myself, and that's not when I have a good headspace. So I like to just let the night flow the way it's going to flow, and if I have sex, great. If I don't, great.
It's still a good time.
Still a good time. this right now, you can't see what's happening right now, but this party right now is lit. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Trust, honey. Trust. Yes.
And then there were some words of advice from two of the co-hosts. Here's Ben.
Ben, your jacket is off. Is the shirt coming off soon too?
Really warm. Yeah, it's all coming off pretty soon.
I mean, I'm guessing you want to participate in your own party.
The honest truth is that the more successful your party is and the more strangers are here, the less you get to participate. So the likelihood of me participating tonight is very low.
I've talked to a lot of couples who've come together. What is like the general consensus here? Do most couples come and they just play with each other, or what do you see happening the most?
We see a lot of everything, and it's a very individual decision, and it changes for people depending on where they are in their relationship, what they're feeling like that night. And one of the ways that we're fundamentally different from a swingers party is that there's no expectation that it's going to be like two couples swapping partners, because it just doesn't work very well. So people do their own thing. And I mean, you can tell there's a lot of people here that are just chatting.
And then here's Ellis.
So basically you got naked before everybody else. Is this sort of like a tradition for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much naked 100% of the time, every time that I can be.
Do people recognize you with pants on?
Oftentimes not. It's been a very serious problem in my life that people will not actually recognize me with clothes on.
Any words of advice for people coming here for the first time?
It's not nearly as intimidating as you think that it is. It's entirely possible to just come here, keep your clothes on, and not have some creepy person come up to you and make you feel really uncomfortable. And in fact, it's mostly just like any other party that you've been to, just you're allowed to have sex and express sexuality here in a way that you're not allowed to in almost any other circumstance.
And does your 9-inch penis have anything to say?
As its lawyer, I have to stop this line of questioning.
So as Julie and I are in the front room talking to party goers, what happened to Natalie? We want to know, what were you doing in the other room? Because we didn't follow you around the whole time.
There was a time that I was talking to a couple, and just talking about their experience at parties, and I was doing my own little journalistic endeavor. I walked around, but it was definitely, I didn't necessarily feel totally comfortable just standing in the middle of the room without knowing anybody, and I guess that gets to a point, which is this really is a community. And so many of the people in the room knew each other, had, relationships that predated that party. And you got the sense that to really be part of the community, you needed to know people.
Or at least come to more of these events, right? Because it did feel like a lot of people knew each other, and they knew each other very well. But they're so welcoming of newbies, and they kind of like, let me show you around. But when the party starts, they have their own business to do too.
But also I feel like a few people mentioned that they wouldn't necessarily like hook up or play with a newbie, which was an interesting
And that's what we heard from a lot of the couples and the people, a lot of the party goers said, if you come, the first time here, don't expect to play. Don't expect to get action. You're just here trying to take it all in.
Acclimate.
Yeah, acclimate is a great word for that. So you're walking around, you met a couple, you're, just trying to take in everything that's happening. Describe to us what you're seeing.
Well, I think right after the consent speech, people started to engage. And so there was a woman who had been naked basically since she walked in the door, and she gets on the stage and spreads her legs and puts her arms up and starts getting whipped. And she had these big welts on her body.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you mentioned, there's men walking around naked, just lots of penis everywhere. Which was cool.
A lot of big penises.
But I guess it's self-selecting at a
I guess it is. Wow. We were very impressed by the size and girth of the penises walking around. And of course the men that they belong to.
But not to say that all sizes are welcome. So
yeah. It was definitely like, it didn't disappoint. What else? What else were you saying?
It was a carnival for the eyes. There were people being tied up. Just the middle section where there was basically an orgy going on. And at some point, we walked up the stairs and kind of got an overhead view of this, which was actually kind of cool. But it was different than watching porn. I think that was a striking thing. Is it felt different. I don't know how to say.
Well, all your senses are being stimulated at this point. I mean, when you're watching porn, you don't really know what's going on in that room. But
you're through a screen too,
you're
right?
Through a screen,
like here, you're just
anonymous.
There,
so there's a feeling of like you're watching someone else without their permission in a way. And both of you said you were really uncomfortable watching other people.
We had like a top area the three of us were standing in, and like a guy joined us too and was kind of watching as well.
Yeah.
But like we felt like awkward. Like I felt like I was like shouldn't be watching, but then I'm like, this is why people are here.
Exactly.
And we asked Ben about it and he's like, no, people like to be watched. It's totally cool.
At some point I just want to grab some popcorn. I wanted to watch it. It was just like so entertaining because in the beginning, there was just a lot of foreplay, a lot of like whipping and tying up. But then probably half an hour later, people were fucking. There was definitely penetration.
Yep.
And in that main room, when you have a bird's eye view, you see like 6 or 7 couples going at it. And the configurations change pretty much by the second. And it's just really a feast for your eyes the entire time. I remember going down there to talk to Ben at some point. And he's like fully clothed and he's running around. He's like trying to make sure everyone's having fun at this party. And this couple behind him is going so hard that his body is vibrating because he's sitting on the same bed, but still trying to have a very normal conversation with me. And this couple's just like, going at it. I'm like, wow, this would never happen anywhere else.
Well, and I will say, in a way, it wasn't that weird.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't that weird to see other people having sex. I don't know. It just...
Right. I thought it would be more strange, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, but why is that? Because your expectations were there, right? You knew people were going to be having sex.
Exactly.
I also thought what was really interesting about the whole experience was it was really empowering for women. I kept seeing women initiate and bringing different men. There was one girl in the main room. She had like 6 men on her. And every guy that walked by, she'd be like, join. She was like the queen bee right there. Like, come join us. And then she'd be like, okay, you're done. She had like 6 men on her, like touching every crevice on her body. It's pretty much amazing.
Nice.
And what happened to you, Natalie? I still don't know what really happened.
Well, I think that my role was mostly as voyeur. Like I was watching, I was observing everything. So, I mean, I don't mean to disappoint anyone, but I didn't.
There was no penetration.
There was no, not even kissing, which I felt like I would definitely be down for. But like I said, I think it takes time to get to know a community. And really, I mean, you don't just walk up to someone and start having sex with them or making out with them unless you've been making eye contact all night. So, you needed to build a relationship. And I think probably because it was totally new. It was hard to even really be comfortable flirting with someone. I don't know if that would be the case if I went a second time, but certainly that first time you're just kind of overwhelmed with all of the newness, all of the everything, and how does this operate, and what are people going to be doing throughout the night?
But that was in line with what everyone said too. Like they were actually like a lot. I was surprised how everyone was like, I think when you go in with your expectations that you're going to have sex, it's actually not met. And that's like kind of like a misnomer that happens necessarily every time. And like most times it's actually like does take that time. And like one woman was saying that like every time she meets someone and then when she sees them the next time, then it like kind of opens that door.
And who was it that told us most people who go to these sex parties are introverts?
Yeah,
and
that
it
was
takes them a while to come out. And one of the things that really helped with the awkwardness in the social situation was the people getting naked.
Yep.
When people are naked, you just have like no wall, literally no wall.
It's kind of like any party or any community. Like if everyone knows each other and you're coming in fresh, there's an adjustment period. And I think that's what happened. And the more you get to know people, like even the women we talk to next time, if we were to go back, we could see them again and then they could introduce us to people. It's kind of like just typical parties.
Yeah, very typical. And what one of the other things I noticed from the party was that there was something happening pretty much every corner. Even if you go to the bathroom, which was an all-gender bathroom, people are making out in there, showering together. I actually walked in and this girl was like, oh, she was talking to someone else. She's like, do you remember us showering together last time? And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that could be an area where you meet and socialize too. People were in the sauna together. It was like a lot of things happening.
But that being said, like, I feel like people were very welcoming and friendly. So it's not like they weren't. I think it was just like us as newbies, like had to get adjusted. But people wanted to let you in and bring you and talk about this with you.
Yes. Okay. And then was there anybody that you were eyeing? Natalie? The guy in the blazer. I remember you talking about him.
I don't think I ever even got near him.
That's true, because there was one person I saw at the pre-party that I never saw again either. I mean, there were like, 200 people there? 250?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it, though, because it was so spread out.
Yeah. And you don't know where they're hiding out. And
That's true. They could have been like in another room that was like not where you were.
And some people come, when they come as a couple, we notice some of the couples come, they have sex, and then they leave.
Yeah.
They didn't really engage with
there were two
other
types
people.
of couples. I think couples that had maybe been before. And it seemed like one couple we talked to was their first time and they kind of did their thing, then left. But other couples that maybe came more often did that the first time, but then the next time got like eased into it a bit more and then eventually got to the point where they were like doing their own things.
Yeah.
It does seem like a process for couples who go that they're not necessarily always open to the idea of playing with other people, but they want to play with each other in that space.
Right.
And whether they move beyond that and start playing with other people is, each individual couple does something different. But it was interesting to see that spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now, before you went to the party, Natalie, you showed me your new underwear because you were really proud of your new underwear. Let's say at the party, someone came up to you and said, can you show me your underwear? Do you think you would have done it?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I would have been like, okay.
But I feel like I don't think anyone would have even said that.
No.
Like, it felt like that wasn't the way, like, the conversations were happening.
That's how I thought it was going to go.
Right.
And it was actually a lot more normative than that.
I think if you wanted to show your underwear, it was kind of on you to strip down and show your underwear. And then that would open the conversation. I think if someone came up to you when you were fully in a black dress, it would have been invasive to be like, show me your underwear.
Yeah.
And actually, I kept wondering when people were saying, everyone gets naked. It's like, what does that look like? And why does everyone get naked? But now that I've been, it makes sense that like when you take your clothes off, you kind of invite everyone to let that wall down with you.
Yeah.
But I also, like, people did stress, like, a lot, and I saw this as well, is, like, you didn't have to do anything. This was all up to you and your comfort level. You could strip down 100%. You could wear, like, a bra and underwear, boxers, or you could be fully dressed, as we maintained. And no one gave us, like, shit for being, like, fully dressed. But we also didn't necessarily invite the attention as much.
That's true. Yes, you can totally just blend into the background at a sex party, or you can come out and do your thing. That's kind of the nice thing, right? You have a choice,
right?
An option,
and maybe it's one of those things. The more you go, the more you gradually ease into it.
Yeah.
So, what are some of our takeaways from this whole experience? Because I would definitely say it was an experience for all.
So many.
I think one thing I found interesting was I think my expectation was kind of all or nothing. Like when I asked, like people asked me about the party, they're like, are you going to have sex at this party? And it was never like, oh, maybe like we could like lightly like make out or like all this like middle ground, which people started to expose me to as we started talking to them. They were like, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. There's many different variants that you can go for.
I think the other striking point was the community aspect.
Yeah.
The more you're part of the community, the more comfortable you'd be participating and just engaging with other people in the room. And the community really fosters that. So it seems like something where if you go a couple times, you meet more and more people, it becomes more and more comfortable.
Totally.
I mean, piggybacking on that community aspect, we spoke to a couple who said, well, we're going through something in our relationship, and we find that when we come to this sort of community, people are understanding of it and they can give us advice about what we're going through. And I thought that was really interesting because I think a lot of couples go through these an evolution in their relationship where they're kind of going outside of non-monogamy or non-traditional, and they don't know who to talk to.
Yep.
And this is the perfect community to talk to.
And
those
it's
things
funny
about.
because you wouldn't think that this would be like a place where you can
like a therapy
chat
therapy
and
session.
talk to people. But I think that was also something that we found is like, yeah, there were the people having sex, absolutely, but there were people that were just like chilling near the cheese and like having conversations that felt more just like a party. It wasn't like it wasn't this all or nothing. It was very tons of different middle ground.
Yeah. And you could literally just come, get your business done, and leave.
What business?
Get whipped, get tied, learn a little something. I think if you
network for a job,
network,
business can be objective.
A lot of people network. But if you were curious about, let's say, like rope bondage, I think this is like a great place to come and be an intern, like, hey, can you show me?
Well, you
how
can
to
observe
do that?
too.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything, like, which is also really nice.
Well, and I will say, even just being part of the Facebook group, I read some posts about rope bondage, whatever you call it. And then I was interested in it, and I looked for it at the party, and I saw some people doing it, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is what it looks like. If I was interested in doing it more, this would be a good place to continue talking to people about it.
And I think like what also another takeaway is obviously like being open. Like this is definitely something that isn't necessarily like the norm, but everyone there definitely had a very open perspective. They like a lot of them talked about like how it changed their views on sexuality and just like not making it necessarily a transactional thing or like necessarily a ton of emotions, but it could just be a fun act. So I think that was all really interesting. And also, I mean, to me, like I was definitely expecting it to be more of like a singles meat market.
Right.
And it did not have that vibe
At all. Well, then we went to Harper and Rye afterwards, which was such a different environment because we left around 1 a.m. and we didn't get to the point where Peaches said, at some point there's no horizontal space. Everyone's vertical. We didn't get to that point yet, but we will be back for one of these parties again. So we decided to go to Harper and Rye. And the minute we walked in, all three of us were like, wow, this is such a different vibe.
We need to like get reacclimated to like just a typical bar.
Typical bar where everyone's closed and there's no like, I don't know, when the clothes are off, you just don't feel like there's like intimidation in talking to someone. But when the clothes are on, you're at a bar, everyone's just still like to themselves.
But
right?
more people approached us at Harper and Rye than at the actual party.
That's true.
That's true. But there's something about like at a sex party when sex is always an option, it kind of takes the pressure and the attention off of sex.
Yeah.
But when you're at a bar where sex may not be an option, it makes it kind of a focus.
Definitely.
Right? It's so weird.
It was weird. It was right. We had to like reacclimate.
Yeah.
Because it was a totally different vibe and world and
And that's why it was weird when those guys came up to us. We did get approached more at Harper and Rye because then to me it was like, oh, the underlining purpose is you want to have sex. But then if we were at a sex party and someone came up to us, I'd just be like, oh, you're curious to get to know me because we could end up having sex. It's a different vibe for sure. So would you go back to a sex party again?
Yeah, I would go back.
What would you do differently next time?
Well, I think I'd want to go with someone who maybe was interested in engaging a little more, maybe even as a couple, because it did seem like people were a little more interested in dealing with couples. So I think that would make it easier to have sort of a partner in crime.
Yeah.
It became clear that you should probably hang out with these people, not necessarily at the sex party. And that when we went to the happy hour before, we were able to meet people and that was more comfortable with those people in the sex party. And if you go to the events and get to know the group of people that you're going to the sex party with, that would just facilitate more activity.
Yeah, for sure. And just like openness and just comfort.
Definitely.
Yeah. But that's with anything.
It
We say it
is.
on our podcast all the time. If you want to meet someone outside of online dating, you just have to do an activity where you see the same people over and over again.
Right.
Because that's where the attraction builds.
And I think a lot of people go to something and they're like, oh, this wasn't great the first time, never gonna go back.
Yeah.
But like we talked about with everyone here, like their expectation was like the first time you're just not gonna do anything.
Yeah, you're not.
So it's kind of like, even if like you join like some like, I don't know, like rec sports league, like maybe the first time isn't great, but you should just like keep sticking it out and seeing if like the relationships can build.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Anything else? Any other takeaways?
It was definitely a new experience, and I appreciate you guys getting me there.
Cross it off that bucket list.
Yeah, and here's a clip of you in the Uber coming back from the sex party.
Oh,
Listen
I forgot
to
about
this.
that.
We're in an Uber back to the city. What was something surprising that you saw tonight?
No, I guess maybe almost in that it was less graphic and shocking than you might think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of pornography, and this wasn't anywhere, near the worst thing I've ever seen, and so maybe the lack of shockingness to it.
You didn't get to show anybody your underwear.
I know.
Maybe you'll get some tonight. You're all like revved up for something. Put that underwear to good use. All right.
Thank you, Natalie, for doing this experience with us.
Bye. Oh, goodbye. All right. If you guys are interested in attending some play parties or sex parties, definitely reach out to us. We can connect you with the right resources, especially with the Organ House. They're huge and they're extremely welcoming of new people. And if you just want to get in touch with us in general, listen, we always talk about getting feedback on dates. We want feedback from you guys. That's how we can improve the show. That's how we can move the show forward. So please reach out to us, okay? And on that note,
stay dateable.
We want to thank Organ House again for allowing us to record this event. And just so you guys know, these events are private and require you to complete an application with referrals before attending. If you're interested in this community that is normalizing non-monogamy and sexual exploration, visit organhouse.org. Your action item for this week is to explore your curiosity. Make a list of all the things that you've been curious about, whether it's sexual or not, and make it a point to cross at least one of them off your list this week. This episode of Dateable is brought to you by 500 Brunches. 500 Brunches connects like-minded people with similar interests to meet in real life over brunch. You answer a quick questionnaire about your interests and how you spend your time, and then they'll match you in small groups of 6 to 8 at a brunch spot in San Francisco. Get a free entry into a brunch now by signing up at 500brunches.com and using the code DATEABLE. If you didn't know already, we have a revamped website with articles, videos, and content all about modern dating. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. We've had some great feedback about how actionable these episodes are, so check them out on our website or iTunes Music. Also, visit the site today to see the latest about coaching, where we connect you with Dateable approved experts to help with everything from dating profile reviews, coaching, and even gathering real feedback about your dating style in a personalized and affordable way. To connect with us, visit dateablepodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all under Dateable Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and auto-download the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player so you never miss an episode.